And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Cheap Ludes, and I'm back with part 3 of the monthly tier list series. So today we're going to be talking about primary position small forwards, which usually is really a terrible thing to talk about because they're just such a bad position in NBA 2K21, my team. But over the last month, we've gotten some really good additions to the small forward position. So this list will not be as painful to get through as it normally is. So, parameters. S tier cards, unquestionable best cards in the game. Now, I'll be honest, with the small forward tier, it's tough to distinguish between S and A tier cards, just because cards that are coming out now are just going to be so cracked, and in comparison to the rest of the cards, it's really tough to designate some to A and some to S, but I will do my best based on both gens and certain playstyles and stuff like that. B tier cards, pretty mid tier guys. I am ranking them within each tier as well. So a guy that's at the top of B tier does have, obviously a bunch of cards separating him from the bottom guy in B tier. Just because they're both in B tier does not mean they're the same value necessarily. And, obviously I will specify the entire time. C tier cards, cards that are either beginning to become outdated but are still usable in some capacity. That's usually how I kind of explain C tier, and it is especially true with the small forward tiers. D tier. Definitely outdated cards. You should definitely upgrade if you're using these guys, but they can be useful for something. F tier, they're not completely trash, but they're there. They have at least like one redeeming quality that maybe you might use them for, maybe a limited run, something like that. And then trash tier, guys that you really, really should be upgrading from at some point. Now, only primary position small forwards, like I said. Let's get underway. Walt Williams. Trash. There is absolutely no reason to use this card, period. Whether it's for limited, I can't think of a single thing in this game that would call for the use of Walt Williams. That makes sense. Next up, we got Bayley Howell. And he's a really tough card to rank, personally. I'm going to slot him in A tier for now. You guys know that I definitely overhype Tracy McGrady SIGs, for sure. And that is something I'm aware of. But I think that there is better cards than Bayley Howell in S tier, for sure. So it's really hard for me to put him in S tier, but I'm going to leave him in A for now, though he is an elite option. If you're using Bayley Howell, he is one of the best small forwards in the game, no question. But I think there's a few guys that are a little bit better than him. The guys in question are probably a little bigger. Jump shot's probably the same as far as like how effective it is, but they have other intangibles that I'll talk about. I just don't think he's quite S tier at this point. I like Bayley Howell a lot, though, and I'm mad. I've played with him a bunch of times, but I still have yet to get him on my own account because he just refuses to show up in TTO, but it is what it is. Brandon Ingram, I would throw him in C tier. Like, he's outdated for sure, but he's still got the BI jump shot, BI player build. He's not great, and you should probably upgrade if you're still using this card, but he's not the worst card in the world. Pretty much C tier makes sense. Brent Barry, he's a 3-and-D sniper for sure. There's definitely better options, and I'm sure he's going to end up at the bottom of C tier along with Brandon Ingram, but they're there for sure. Brian Russell, he's got some of the best defensive animations in the game. He has the same defensive animations as Scottie Pippen. Same jump shot too, which is kind of unfortunate, but if he's fully evo'd, he's probably C tier. He's pretty usable on both gens too. I can't say he's that much worse than Brent Barry, so I'd probably put him here. These two might move down at some point, though. Cam Reddish, he's definitely super outdated. I would put him in, like, D tier. It's not his fault, necessarily, but I would use all three of the guys in D tier, or C tier, over him. Andrew Wiggins, I would put him in B tier for sure. He's an elite 3-and-D option, and he can attack the rim as well. I don't think he's quite A tier anymore, though. Carmelo, if we're talking next gen, Carmelo's probably up here because he can shoot from the corners. But he can also play the shooting guard as well, so I'd put him in B tier for now. I don't think he's quite on Bayley Howell's level. Like, Bayley Howell is definitely better on current gen. He's more than likely better on next as well. Karan Butler, I would throw him in C tier as well. He's very meh. He's there. Cedric Maxwell, he's definitely outdated for sure, but he's got an elite jump shot and good size. And he can play the 2 guard, so I would put him in B tier. I don't think he's going to end up towards the top. He's probably going to end up towards the bottom. I would say he's worse than Wiggins and Carmelo, but he's definitely better than all these guys in C tier. Cliff Hagan, he can shoot and that's it. He has a really slow jump shot. He's small. He doesn't play any defense. He can't really dribble. I'd put him at F. He's definitely better than Walt Williams, though. Connie Hawkins, I'd put him here, too. He came out in Season 2, man. Not much I can do. Corey Brewer, there is absolutely no reason to be using Corey Brewer at all. Like, there's just better options at every single tier. I do not like this card. I might be just going too hard on this card because I loved his diamond last year, and they just made this card so garbage, but this is how I feel. Danny Granger is still good enough to be, like, mid-C tier, I think. Like, I personally think he's better than... I don't know if he's really that much better than Brandon Ingram, all things considered, but he's definitely better than, like, Brent Berry. Detlef Schrempf, he's the worst card in B tier, but he's definitely a B tier guy at this point. Elgin Baylor. Now, if he was a shooting guard primary, I honestly would have him, if not top of B tier, like borderline low A tier. But because we're doing small forwards, I think he is much worse than Bayley Howell, just because of his size. He's elite, though. I like Elgin Baylor a lot, and I just got him last night, and I've been playing around with him, and he's really, really good. He's 6'5" with a 6'8" wingspan. He's got good badge count. His jump shot is Dante Exum based, which is fantastic. Like, Dante Exum on very quick is elite, which might put him up to A tier, but he's not that great of a dunker, which is kind of a problem. He's not terrible in regards to passing, but he's not really great at it. He plays pretty competent defense. He rebounds a little bit. Badge-wise, he's elite. He's a tough card to rank because he is small, and I try not to incorporate, like, height too much in my rankings, because a lot of people who do tier lists do that, and I think it is kind of annoying. I think right now I'll put him in A tier, though. I would use him over all the guys in B tier. So I'll put him in A for now. Ceballos is terrible. Like, I hate this card so much. He's arguably probably better than Connie Hawkins, but I just do not like this card. Girvin, I would say Girvin's C tier still. Like, he's definitely worse than the guys in B tier, but I would say he's a competent level with, like, Karan Butler, Brent Berry, and stuff like that. This Girvin I would put in D tier. He's just a little bit worse of a version. I would still probably use Brian Russell and Brent Berry over him. Yeah, I would. I'd use Cam Reddish over that George Gervin. Nah, I'd use George Gervin over Cam Reddish at this point. Gerald Wallace, if he's badged up, he's B tier. But if he's not badged up, he's C tier. Still elite defensively, but without those shooting badges. Like I said, I try to not rank cards badged up as much, just because I'm trying to help people who are going to go buy them straight off the market. If you can find a badged up Gerald Wallace, he's probably B tier, and he may move up, realistically. Giannis, he's not good, but he's still got the Giannis player build, so I would probably put him in, like, low D tier. Glenn Robinson, outdated, but he's got an elite shot. I like this card a lot. He's definitely outdated, but I put him in, like, D tier. This Glenn Robinson, if he has shooting badges, just like Gerald Wallace, he's probably up in C tier, but without him, I'd put him in, like, D tier by Girvin. Glenn Rice, he's not great, but he's still, like, bottom C tier. Like, he still has an elite jump shot and a big player build, so. Grant Hill, I do not, yeah. He came out in, what, Season 1, Season 2? Great when he came out, but, yeah, it's long past that. Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes is a beast, actually. Like, this card is really good. I'd probably still use Wiggins over him, but I would use him over Cedric Maxwell and Detlef at this point. I probably would. Hito, if Hito had a different jump shot, he'd be B tier, but I just hate it so much that I would put him in C. Alex English is probably the best card in B tier. I think he is a little bit better than Carmelo, just because he's got a bigger player build. But same problems. Jack Marin, I would use Jack Marin over Maxwell and Detlef, for sure. He's still B tier. James Worthy, super outdated. F. This James Worthy, S tier, no question. That's my opinion on it. Huge player build, great length, great jump shot, has absolutely no weaknesses whatsoever. He's a beast. Like, he is a beast. Like, Bayley Howell and Elgin Baylor are just as elite stats and badges wise, but they're a little bit smaller, so there is some negatives to say about them. I don't really have anything negative to say about James Worthy, though. Andre Iguodala's. I would honestly say they're low-end B tier, both of them. Like, this one is a little bit more athletic and is a little better at attacking the rim. This Iguodala right here is a little less athletic, but a much better shooter. I mean, shooting-wise, they're not crazy different, just like athleticism, they're not. But I do like what 2K did with these two cards. Like, they did make one better at certain things and one better at other things. The badges are a little bit different, too. Like, this one has Hall of Fame handles for days, whereas this Iguodala does not. But he also has Hoff range, where this Iguodala has gold range. So they did a lot of things to mess with them, but I would say they're equal. It just depends how you want to play. Jarrett Culver, I mean, he's better than the guys in C tier. He's got terrible hot zones. That's really the only thing that kills this card. If he didn't have those awful hot zones, he'd be a pretty solid card. Not quite as good defensively as Andre Iguodala, but definitely better offensively. So, I don't know. Jeremy Grant, I'd put him in D. He's just, if he's badged up, he's C tier. Are you really going to argue that? I don't know. Jimmy Butler, he's just got a terrible badge count. If you have, like, sunk a bunch of badges into him and badged him up, like, he's probably low-end B tier, but I don't know. This Jimmy Butler, he's a tough card to rank for a multitude of reasons. He is the best 3-and-D cone in the game, in my opinion, but I overvalue base 22, which is the jump shot that he has, and I know that. So I'm going to keep him at the top of A tier for now, but he might move up because this card is absolutely elite. The other thing is he plays better at the shooting guard, but you can play him at small forward just fine. Jimmy Butler's a really tough card to rank. Like I said, like the S and A tier guys are tough to rank in this tier list specifically because they're all so good. But he's not the best. I mean, he's got shifty dribble style. Like, he's got good dribble moves. Jump shot 22, like I said, is like my favorite release in the game. So it's really tough to try to balance that out and be unbiased when it comes to that release because I like it so much. On next gen, he does not have blinders, but honestly, I don't think that's really that big of a deal. He's just so elite at everything else, it's really tough. It just depends how you feel about base 22. If you're a big base 22 guy, you're going to have him in S tier. If you're not, A tier. You know, it's tough. Joe Harris. I mean, Joe Harris is good. I'd put him right here. Joe Ingles, my boy. Where's Joe Harris? I mean, they should be right next to each other. TJ Warren, yeah, this card's just not good. If he's badged up, he's probably like D tier, possibly low C, but till that point, I'd put him at F. Will Barton, low C tier. He's really good. I would use him over Karan Butler, honestly. Kawhi. Kawhi, same thing as Gerald Wallace. Like, he needs shooting badges in hot zones, so I would put him, like, around Will Barton area. I would use Will Barton over this card, though. Jonathan Isaac. I mean, he's got the Jonathan Isaac player build, but, like, he misses so many whites, and he doesn't have a lot of shooting badges and stuff. Like, I'd put him, like, over here. I would use, like, Jeremy Grant and Glenn Robinson and stuff over him, realistically. This Julius Erving, D. He's just outdated. Like, this is the same Julius Erving as the one that came out in Season 1. Sean Marion. I put him, like, at the top of C tier with, like, I'd put Hito down here. Yeah, with, like, Jimmy Butler and Danny Granger and Gerald Wallace. Like, I'd put him up there. Anthony Edwards. I don't think Anthony Edwards is quite A tier. I think all three of these guys are significantly better than him. And he's the same size as Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor's just a much better card in general. So I'd put him, like, top B tier. If you like it, yeah. I mean, if you like Anthony Edwards, you're going to like him. But, I don't know. Julius Erving is another tough card to rank. I would probably put him at the top of B tier. I think the guys in A are better than him. But I'm a big fan of Julius Erving, period. Like, in this game, usually I'm not, too. That's the weird part. Like, normally in 2K, I don't like Dr. J that much, but this year, I've liked every single card that they've released for him. That Season 1 Julius Erving was my favorite for a long period of time. It's because they gave him Rudy Gay base, and I like Rudy Gay base a lot. I mean, he's pretty much 90 plus in every stat, so it's really tough to say, yeah, he's not good or whatever, but I just think the guys in A tier are better than him. I mean, he's still big, like 6'6", 6'11" wingspan. I would just prefer to use Elgin Baylor. Like, Julius Erving is definitely a better dunker, but I think Elgin Baylor has the better jump shot, and I mean, defensively, he rebounds better, he plays a little better defense. That one's tough, man. I might end up dropping Elgin Baylor, because I don't know necessarily if he's that much better than Dr. J. I'll let it play out. This Paul George, he's definitely outdated. Is he really worse than like Brian Russell or Brent Barry, though? No, I'd put him like at the bottom of C tier. He's definitely better than Cam Reddish for sure. Junior Bridgman. Yeah, where's Where's Gerald Wallace? Like, he's over by Gerald Wallace. If he has shooting badges, he's probably like B tier. But without him, he's like C. Justice Winslow. I would use Justice Winslow over Cedric Maxwell for sure. Probably use Jack Marin over him, though. But I would use him over Cedric Maxwell, Detlef, Jarrett Culver, the Iggy's. Yeah, definitely. He's a beast. This Iguodala, super outdated. I would put him in like F. No, he can still shoot. I'd put him by Grant Hill. Kelly Oubre. He's still good enough to be B tier. There's better options, though. Yeah, there's better options. Still B tier, though. Kendrick Williams, I mean, I put him in D. Around Glenn Robinson. If he's fully evo'd, probably D. If he's not, probably F. I don't know. Kevin Durant. He's still got the Durant player build, so I'd probably put him at the bottom of C with, like, Paul George. These two guys might move down, though. Because I think there's situations you can get away with using Brent Barry and Brian Russell for, like, limited runs and stuff like that. So I think that makes them a little bit more valuable. Because they don't harm your overall as much as, like, Paul George and Kevin Durant do. So, Chris Middleton. Yeah, Chris Middleton's not very good. He's a decent 3-and-D guy, but I still think, like, all these cards are better. So I'd put him in, like, D tier. Paul George. I would put Paul George in S tier. I'm not a huge fan of Paul George as far as, like, in-game, but this card right here is ridiculous. Like, he's probably... I still think Jimmy Butler is a better pure 3-and-D cone because I think his defensive animations are just slightly better. It seems like he gets a few more steals. Like, it feels like he steals the ball a little easier. It feels like he's a little, like, more muscular, so he gets in the way of people a little bit more. But Paul George, that Paul George base on very quick on next gen is crazy. It's pretty good on current gen as well. And he's more athletic. I feel like he can handle the ball a little bit more. And that's just the reasoning I have for putting him in S tier. But depending on how you feel about the jump shots, you could swap these guys. It really just doesn't matter anymore at this point. Kiki Vanderwee, C tier. By, like, Hito Turkoglu. This Larry Bird is terrible. I hate him so much. He can shoot. That's it, though. I truly, in my heart, believe that Larry Cannon is an A tier card. If you want to argue he deserves to be down in B with, like, Julius Erving and Anthony Edwards, I'll hear you out. I'm just not entirely sure about that. Like I said, these Dark Matter cards that we've been getting recently have all been small forwards, and they're tough to rank. Sprewell. I would put Sprewell ahead of, like, Jarrett Culver and Kelly Oubre. I actually like this card a lot. For me personally, like, if we're doing personal bias, he's probably over by, like, Andrew Wiggins or Harrison Barnes. I actually like that card a lot. LeBron, D tier. This LeBron, upper C tier. Badge count is not good at all, but he's still LeBron. He's got a good... Yeah, I mean, Danny Granger. Him and Danny Granger have similar badge counts. I'm using Danny Granger over him specifically, but... Now, this LeBron, because I'm trying to rank both gens with no bias, like, on current gen, he cannot shoot from the corners, and that is, like, a huge issue, especially because he plays small forward. So I would put him in A. Like, I wouldn't put him in S tier for that reason. If 2K would just fix that on current gen, I would say he's an S tier card, no question. He does have, like, one of the most unblockable dunk packages in the game. But that not being able to shoot corner threes is, like, so frustrating, especially when you're running, like, a Hawks freelance and he's always going to end up in the corner. You're going to have to, like, change your whole offense around just to make sure he ends up at the top of the key and not down in the corner. So I think for that reason, that's super annoying. If you're on next gen, LeBron James is S tier. But if you're on current gen, he's probably A tier. So I'm going to leave him at A tier. Lou Hudson. Lou Hudson's not good, but he's definitely not D tier bad. I'd put him in, like, by, like, Girvin or, like, Hito. Just disappointing. Michael Finley. I mean, he's not terrible, but, like, he's upper D tier somewhere. Like, Joe Harris is up here harder because I like it. His jump shot is just nice. MPJ. I would use MPJ over Paul George and Kevin Durant at this point, so I'm going to keep him right there. Mike Miller. I mean, he can stroke it. I would Joe Harris, Joe Ingles area. Yeah. Batum plays good defense, but that's about it. You can't really even give him any shooting badges, so I would put him in, like, D. Paul Pierce is super outdated. He probably should be an F tier, but I'm also just mad that I never got this card first season, so I'm going to throw him in trash. Also, he still can't shoot from the corner, so. This Paul Pierce, I would put him top of C. Like, he can't shoot from the corners at all. But Melo can play the 2 guard, and this Paul Pierce cannot play the 2 guard, which I think is so dumb. They should have at least let him play the 2 guard. Because if you could play him at the 2 guard, I'd probably have him up at B. But because he can't, I would put him down at C. Gerald Wilkins. Another tough card. Well, let's throw Peja over here. This Peja, he plays no defense and can't really dribble, so I'll put him up in C tier. Lights out jump shot, though. Like, it's still good. Richard Jefferson. Let me get rid of the rest of these before I rank Wilkins. D. He's all around okay. Rick Barry, I would put over here. Plays no defense, kind of outdated, but shoots the lights out. Sean Elliott is no question B tier. I would use him over a lot of these cards. Probably right there. That makes sense, yeah. Dissinger next to Marin. He's outdated for sure. I'd probably use Justice Winslow over those guys, but I still think he's really, really good. I'll probably use Sean Elliott over him too. Timothy, whatever, probably like fully evoed, probably D tier. I might even use him over, I would use him over Paul George and Kevin Durant, so I'll put him over here somewhere. Glenn Rice area, that makes sense. I actually like that card. This one's going to be shocking, but I honestly believe this TJ Warren is S tier. Like, he's that good. He's incredible, man. I'm shocked that they gave out a card like this. Granted, you had to win 12 unlimited games in one weekend, which is horrendously difficult, especially with how sweaty people are right now. But the reward is worth it, because he is one of the best small forwards in the game. Now, granted, most of the people who are going to have this card, he's probably not even making their top 10, because they're just using power forwards / small forwards as their small forwards. And they probably have somebody like Paul George or like Jimmy Butler, so they don't really need TJ Warren. So it would have been cooler if he was like the TTO prize or something. Because like I said, the majority of people who are going to have this card do not need him. But he has jump shot 63, which is Robert Covington's jump shot, and it's really good, in my opinion. But other than that, he's just an incredibly well-rounded card. There's nothing really bad about him. Like I said, like, it's tough when it comes to the A and S tier guys, because it could just be any of them. You could argue, depending on your playstyle, any of these guys are in S tier or any of these guys in A tier. It's tough to really say. I'm going to drop Elgin Baylor as much as I like him. I just can't justify keeping him a tier above Julius Erving. So I would put him, I like him more than, I like his jump shot more than Julius Erving, so I would keep him ahead. I personally think Larry Kanon's a little bit better. I might be overvaluing Larry Kanon, but he's got like the biggest player build in the game. He's massive, he can shoot. Jump shot 4 is not bad. It's the same one as Dikembe, which is kind of frustrating. You know what? I'm going to do this instead. Yeah. Elgin Baylor's a beast. I don't care what anyone says. He might be little, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, this is much better. And then Julius Erving over Larry Kanon. Yep. Okay, I like that a lot better. Tobias Harris is F. Wally Zerbiak is probably D, fully evoed. I really want to drop Paul George and Kevin Durant, but I think just because they're them, they probably deserve to be bottom of C tier. I can't say they're that much worse than Danny Granger. I just prefer Danny Granger a lot. Their badge counts are horrendous at this point, though. But sometimes it's the intangibles that matter. And I still would probably use these two guys if I had to play competitively over all the guys in D tier. Yeah, I probably would. I don't know. That one's tough, too. Alright. Gerald Wilkins. Now, this card is tough. Now, the reason I haven't been ranking this card, and I've been waiting to rank him, is because this is the only card in 2K that I have yet to play around with personally. So, I watched a bunch of gameplay videos and stuff like that, and I've been looking at his 2K DB. I know that there's been people who have been like, oh, he doesn't even play with all the cards. First off, dude, I try to play with every card, okay? I try. But I'm literally by myself out here. I don't have an army of people wanting me to use their accounts. Like, I don't have people who have every single card that'll let me jump on the account and stuff like that. It's just me. I have to, like, grind or buy for every single card for these tier lists. So, fucking relax, okay? I'm by myself, man. And I haven't got a chance to play with Gerald Wilkins because I cannot get him to drop from the vault. Because the vaults, my RNG luck is terrible. Now, all things considered, he looks like a great card. I watched like Ty Debo play with him, but that doesn't really mean anything because dude is like really good. So every card kind of looks good. He has Jonathan Isaac's release, very quick, same as Jerry Sloan. So jump shot 70, which misses a pretty good amount of whites. I will say that it does. on both gens just because it has a really high arc. And if you notice, every card with a high arcing jump shot this year misses a lot of whites, and everyone with like laser shots makes a lot of whites. So like base 22, Ray Allen base, Trey Burke base is kind of a laser as well. He's a good looking card. He's pretty much good at everything. He's not that great of a passer. Doesn't matter. He's not really that great of a rebounder, but like I said, it doesn't really matter. He's only 6'6", but he doesn't have like the elite jump shot Elgin Baylor does. I would probably put him around around Larry Kanan and Julius Randle. You could really switch these guys up. Now look, I clarified this earlier, but I will clarify it again. Julius Randle and Andre Iguodala / Jarrett Culver, while technically they are on the same tier, there is many cards separating them. These are also ranked. So like, in my opinion, Julius Randle is the 8th best small forward in the game. Okay? Andre Iguodala is like 20 something. Alright? Just wanted to put that out there because there's inevitably a bunch of people that are mad about that stuff. So I always like to clarify it. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, this is how it would look. When it comes to the A tier guys, it depends on personal preference, like what you want to do about that. Jimmy Butler, I just think he's more of a 3-and-D guy. So I would keep him in A tier because he's not as versatile. TJ Warren, I think, is just really good. And it could just be recency bias, but I think S tier makes sense for him. Bayley Howell, I know I have a bias towards Tracy McGrady Sigs, but all things considered, I think the guys in S tier are better than him. LeBron, because he cannot shoot from the corners on current gen, and the majority of the player base plays on current gen, and I do my tier list based on current and next gen, I think he deserves to be an A tier based on that. If 2K could just go and fix that one simple thing that's been happening for years that they just refuse to fix. They won't fix that, or the Klay Thompson switching on the center glitch on current gen for some reason. He'd be S tier, no question, and TJ Warren would probably be down here realistically. That's probably who I would move out. I'm torn on Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren, like as far as S tier guys. Elgin Baylor, you could argue Julius or Gerald Wilkins or even Kanan deserves to be up here, or Anthony Edwards technically, but I think Elgin Baylor is that good. He has that intangible jump shot that is just wet this year that puts him above some of those guys. So let me know what you think down in the comments. It has been your boy Cheap Ludes, and I'll be back with the power forward tier list later and more videos this week. Check the description for all my stuff. Peace out, man. Have a good day.